interrupt you. There we are. Thank you.
Go for it. Excellent. All right. Well, hi, everyone. It is great to be back. I was really glad to see another email with another invite asking me to return. So I always appreciate that. And I am looking forward to this. This is some of the new stuff that I've been working on, and it applies directly. Well, it applies directly to everything, really, because what we're going to talk about tonight is energy and how our energy impacts us and especially our riding. Okay, right? Because, you know, we're equestrians here and we really want to focus on that. But just to let you know, we're going to use the chat tonight. I don't even see a Q&A option, so that's good. And I'm pretty good at the chat too. I'll try and follow it as much as I can. And Dawn, whatever you see that looks cool or fun or should be read, please let me know, especially if there are questions. I will leave a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. And I wish we were all together, but maybe someday soon. And you know me, I'm a big fan of paper and pen. So, you know, tonight, I always ask you to do a little bit of work on yourself, write down some things that you think and that you're coming up with. And I'm a big fan of paper and pen because of the way that it formulates and helps us congeal memory, recall, and also a lot of times when we write some stuff down, we discover things. Right? We can uncover. I don't know about you, but if you've ever sat down to just journal or write, you just start writing and writing and writing, and like some stuff comes out of your pen, and like I'll look at my pen and I'll be like, I had no idea that was in you. So, so like I said, always a big fan of that. And so tonight we're going to talk about energy and personal energy. And this has been something that I have been very focused on and spent the last decade really learning about, teaching, unpacking, experimenting with, and researching. And personal energy is something that it's very difficult to get a research sort of feel on because it's really, really hard to measure. And as we sort of unpack this tonight, what I want you to start thinking about with regards to energy is that it has a very multidimensional nature to it. So for me, when I was first introduced to energy and personal energy and the ways that we can manage it and increase it, when I was asked, you know, about energy, or if I ever thought about energy, really the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, energy, am I tired or not? And it really didn't have any depth, width, or height even beyond that. It was one dimension. It was, am I tired or not? And as I began to learn about energy and the multidimensional nature, which I'm going to talk a little bit about tonight, what it did for me was change the way not only that I related to my energy, but also the way that I could work to expand my energy. So if you're tired or not, there's not a lot of options. But as you see, as we begin to unpack a little bit more about energy, you will see that when it has more life to it, you can actually create more energy on the spot. So one of the things that we talk about a lot these days is being exhausted. Burnout is one of the bigger words used all the time. And we read about it, we see it. The pandemic really exposed a couple of critical industries that are suffering tremendously from burnout. You know, our frontline workers, our nurses, our healthcare system. Yep. Okay. Very obvious. Now what we're starting to really see is our education system, teachers feeling burnt out. Dawn, that's a great face that you're making right there. Yes. And so I'm wondering if while we're talking about burnout and exhaustion, if you guys could, if some of you would just be willing to pop in the chat a little bit about what you're experiencing regarding your energy. And are you experiencing burnout? Are you in a profession other than equestrian? Because we're going to talk about equestrian burnout, but are you burned out? Are you experiencing burnout? What's it feeling like? So if anyone's willing to start the roll in the chat, that would be great. Also clergy during this difficult time. Wow, I had not even thought about that. But yes, I would imagine that would be really challenging. Christy, you're a first responder? Ooh, wow, well, thank you for that. Let's see, ICU nurse that worked in the COVID unit during the beginning of the pandemic. I am totally crispy fried. Geez, burnt out. Yes, always on the edge. I'm an educator. Been quite difficult to deal with children, how they are feeling and learning. Physician, pediatric critical care. I'm tired. Yeah, I bet you are. Nurse working health IT. We've been straight out since March. Wow. Yeah, for sure. Psychotherapist, Vicky, I'm with you. Too much need, not enough time. How long's your wait list, Vicky? Wow. Yeah. So we are feeling this. We are totally feeling this in. I don't really know anyone. And I think that no matter what you do for a living, no matter what profession, yes, everything has seemed really crazy for the last couple of years. And like I said earlier, I really think that what COVID did was just draw this out of the shadows into center stage so that we could know, okay, this is what we're dealing with. I've been doing some research on burnout in nurses because I actually have a version of this empty tank syndrome for the healthcare system. And I had no idea that burnout in nursing had been epidemic since 1980. The first citation I have is from 1980. So, okay, Melanie, I feel a bit guilty because I'm somewhat sheltered from burnout. I'm so lucky, especially compared to others. Yeah, you really are. So keep your energy going. With current inflation issues, I'm working harder to make ends meet. Yeah, the end of the tunnel keeps moving further away. Yeah, we all sort of feel like this weird space. So my goal, my mission is to help you raise your awareness around your energy, the state of the state in terms of your energy, and then what you can do to improve your energy. And we don't have great awareness around it, like I said, because it's hard to measure. So for humans, if you can't really measure it, it doesn't exist. That was the problem in psychotherapy, right, Vicky? For years and years and years, psychology wasn't considered a true science because it was really difficult to measure. So you're going to begin your own self-measurement system because you are the expert on you. And so if you begin to pay attention, raise your level of awareness around these different systems that we're talking about with regards to energy, then you can begin to develop a database, some type of reference point for you. We want to create a baseline so that you know when you've come off of that baseline. Now, the pandemic crushed all of our baselines for quite a while. And then some of us, and depending on the industry that we're in, have really struggled to recover. So if you look at all of these blue boxes, and I'm sure you've been looking at them already, but when you are exhausted, how well do you do any of these things? And I started to make this list, and I just I actually had to stop myself because there were so many things that could have been on this list. But when we are tired, so first of all, there's tons of great stuff out there on sleep and on fatigue and on actually exhaustion and cognition. But when you are tired, so when you have gotten the equivalent of less than 4 hours of sleep, when you're at that level of exhaustion, you test cognitively at the level of legally drunk. 4 hours of sleep or less, you are legally drunk from a cognitive standpoint. But the problem with being drunk is that you don't know you're drunk, right? So you don't know you're making bad mistakes. So yes, so Natalia, that is really a huge part right there, difficult part of burnout is that you're crazy tired, but you can't sleep through the night, right? You actually become too tired to sleep. And we will talk about that. So thanks for putting that in there. And I did put sleep in one of these boxes, right? So when you're exhausted, you don't think well, you don't move well, right? Your joints feel sticky and like you can't move. You don't really feel well, right? Being creative, forget about it. Then exercise, connection with others. When you are tired, there's no there to make that effort. Like sometimes connecting with people is easy and sometimes it's really difficult and you have to generate. And if you have to generate and you're exhausted, it ain't happening. Sleeping, like we talked about, memory is highly impaired when you are exhausted. Learning also, because when you're that tired, usually what you slip down into is your sympathetic nervous system. And so learning becomes impossible. Understanding things, right? Our cognitive capacity, our ability to compute, to put things together, right? Like you're at the grocery store and you want to hand the right amount of change. Okay, right? And you're tired, forget about it. Patience goes out the window. And I'm going to show you in the next slide one of my favorite graphics ever and why it is that all of these things like patience and connection disappear. How about how you ride? How do you ride when you are exhausted? I mean, I know we all suck it up and get on and just kind of muddle through, but it's just not there. Dawn, I'm going to explain right now why what you put in the chat is true, right? It's so much harder to be empathic when you're tired, and especially doing it remotely. So this is one of my favorite graphics ever. And don't think that I'm super shrinky because I love Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but this really talks to how we function. So the genius in this is really, as we move up this pyramid, our capacities increase and grow. So the interesting thing about fatigue, exhaustion, and burnout is that we actually get stuck in those lower two basic needs sections of the pyramid. So when we're exhausted, burnt out, tired, we don't have the energy to realize that we're safe, right? Our safety today is not really food, water, warmth, shelter, or that kind of safety, like safety against our lives. Like if we're going to find the right cave to sleep in and no one's going to try and kill us, there's no saber-toothed tiger in the tree, all of that. Those safety needs are really originally what we were designed to be able to get ourselves out of. Now, the psychological, the physiological and safety needs have become much more emotional, mental, and psychological. So we have burnout, we worry about our job. We have a pandemic, we worry about being able to pay the bills. We lose our connection with people, we worry about that. Everything creates a kind of worry. And if you've ever heard me speak, I'll talk about our sympathetic nervous system going from worrying about the saber-toothed tiger in the tree to being triggered by an email with all caps in the subject line. So we have it everywhere. We have thoughts. Thoughts are enough to trigger and take us down out of those higher levels of this pyramid and put us right back down into our basic survival needs. So it's harder to generate empathy because empathy, generosity, curiosity, connection, all the, everything that like our higher brain functions, those all require energy. And if your brain thinks that you are in a survival state, it will hijack every ounce of energy and move it into your survival, which is why, if we go back one slide, why all of these things become so challenging, so difficult, we forget about them because we just can't even muster them. Because when we are exhausted, we are down in the lower piece of the pyramid. We can't get ourselves out of our basic needs. And that makes us feel very disempowered, disconnected. And it actually even tends to further our exhaustion, which is just weirdly ironic.
I'm getting
Yeah, I was going to
I've
say,
got a direct chat also
okay.
of someone noticing that, it's also true right in the moment for them that that when the horse spooks and they're scared, it's hard to remember the connection with the horse and kind of work through it that way.
Yeah. And so if you don't mind putting your chat to everyone, there's a little drop down menu. If you look at the bottom, type message here right above that, just go ahead and switch that to everyone so we can all share. But thanks for reading that, Dawn. Yeah. So let's talk about that type of fear. When you are in those bottom two safety and physiological needs parts of this pyramid, of this energy and growth pyramid, you can't do anything except for survive, right? So your horse spooks, your trainer yells at you, you're worried about going home to whoever you're going home to. You can't leave the day that you just had that was horrific. You can't leave that in the car. You've somehow taken it with you. It's joined you. It's riding double bareback with you. Whatever it is, that takes your brain out of the game. When you are in these lower pieces of this basic needs, your psychological, not only needs, but your psychological capacities are highly compromised. And so what do? We have to get ourselves out of this. And this is where thinking about energy, your personal energy, in a multidimensional way becomes very powerful. So I learned this, I was mentored by a really great wise man named Jim Lair at the Human Performance Institute. And he was the first one that I saw do energy like this. So he took Maslow's hierarchy of needs and he sort of put it into this, it's not a hierarchy, but this dimensional way to think about energy. So Melanie asked, should we somewhere how much energy physical healing requires? So I guess the question is really like, insert. Should we insert somewhere how much energy physical healing requires? Yeah, everything costs you energy. Everything takes energy. So when you have a physical injury, it's not, if we're looking at this very slide right here, if you have a physical injury, doesn't it impact you emotionally? Doesn't it impact you mentally, right? If your body's tired, and gosh, man, knock on wood, I haven't been on crutches in a long time, but I will tell you that the couple of times that I had been on crutches, it was horrific. It was terrible, right? And you're like crutches. So not only are you upset, right? You're hurt and you're tired, right? But then you're upset. That's your emotional part. Then you're mentally derailed because you have to think about what it takes, like going up and down stairs. Oh my gosh, on crutches, forget about it, right? And the spiritual, you disconnect. So yes, we should talk about how much energy it takes to require. Okay, let's see. I've taught Maslow for years and never thought about it this way. Isn't that fantastic, right? It's so genius. And it was really the way that Jim put this together, and then really thinking about what it takes to recover. Okay, so what about an inverted pyramid? What's interesting is I just had a conversation with someone. So I'm guessing you're talking about Maslow's pyramid inverted. And a lot of times when people start with a self-actualization, they're missing some of their basic needs, and inadvertently they tend to miss the middle, Sharon. So when people start, if they turn it upside down, they start at the top, they tend to miss the middle two parts and they end up landing right into the safety and physiological needs. So with this pyramid, though, as we start to think about our energy as multidimensional, our physical energy is, of course, very easy to think about. It's, our body, it's very easy to manipulate physical energy, right? You drink something, you eat something, you rest, you move, you exercise, you sleep. Right? Those are the ways to manipulate and change your physical energy. Very easy. In our emotional dimension, when we think about our emotional energy, there's really just two kinds of emotional energy, positive or negative, right? You're either feeling good or feeling bad. And there's a spectrum of it, right? So bad doesn't always have to be bad. Bad can sometimes be, right? And good can sometimes be, right? So it doesn't have to be all the way to the either end of the spectrum. It doesn't have to be horrible, and it doesn't have to be fantastic. But really, that's our emotional energy. Our mental energy is really how well we can focus. So when we are tired, I don't know about you, but when I get tired, one of the first things that goes is my mind. It just gets harder and harder to focus when the more tired I become. So that's the way to think about your mental energy, is how your focus is impacted. Our spiritual energy is our connection to source, right? It's our mission, our purpose, our values, the things that bring meaning to our lives. And our spiritual energy is really sort of like that 24-hour gas station. It's always open. You can always tap into spiritual energy. It's not a place where you spend or where you feel like you spend. Like when you are engaging in something that is very purpose driven for you, it does not feel like you are spending energy. So spiritual reconnecting to mission is your purpose is very powerful. However, if you're already exhausted, it's very difficult to get there. You actually have to have a bit of energy before you can connect back to purpose. Okay, so some people are limping along on emotional crutches, trying to be normal and not burden others with their emotional burdens. The last 2 years have made this more challenging. Yeah, you know, what we have gone through from the pandemic and from everything that happened, that I think there were a lot of socio-economical, political, perfect storm scenarios that really made the pandemic as horrific as it was, especially initially. And it created a lack of safety in a lot of different places. So if you are limping along and not talking about it, my recommendation is to talk about it, right? To let it out and to see if you can find someone who can help you with that, even if it's a friend or a confidant or a partner or a family member. But yeah, what I always tell people who feel like their emotional stuff is burdensome, you being not well is a much greater burden than talking about what's making you feel not well. So always remember that. Okay, so our energy has multiple dimensions to it. And the reason why this is so important is because if you're feeling unenergetic physically, you can always create some energy emotionally, and then that will ripple both up and down to your physical. You can do something mental, you can think something, you can take a break, you can go play Angry Birds, or what is it now, Wordle, right? I never get into that stuff, but as you can tell by my Angry Birds reference, but you can go and you can give yourself some mental relief, which will create some energy. You can connect with your purpose. You can go for a walk. There are all these things that you can do in order to recover some of your energy. And that's really, when we talk about recovery in a couple minutes, that's really what we're going to come back to. But I wanted to talk about resilience for just a minute, because this is something that the chat box should go crazy. And I don't know if you remember Bobo the Clown. And if you're a psychologist or took Psych 101, what you will remember is the bad experiment with Bobo the Clown, when the kids the parents were punching Bobo the Clown, and then the kids, mimicked that because we have mirror neurons. But really, the thing about Bobo the Clown, if you remember it, you can also search it on YouTube. It was a plastic doll, and it was like about 3 feet high, and it came with sand in the bottom. So it had sand in the bottom, and then it was just plastic filled with air, the rest of it, and you'd punch it, and it would fly to the ground, and then it would just pop right back up, right? And then you'd punch it, it'd hit the ground, and it would just pop right back up. It was resilience, right? Because how do most people define resilience? Bouncing back. But the interesting thing to me about resilience is that I wrote a corporate training program. This is what started me on this mad this mad way to want to rebrand resilience, is because resilience, yes, you're resilient. I really think that everybody is resilient. If you're still standing, if you're still moving, if you're still, being alive, you're resilient, right? But the first time I taught my resilience course at a corporate venue, a guy walked up to me and he goes, "So, resilience, huh? You trying to squeeze some more water out of this very dry rock?" And then he turned around and he walked away, and I was like, "Oh, man, no." What we were trying to do was teach people about recovery. But I think that resilience has turned into exhaustion as a badge of honor, right? I can take it, I can take it, I can take it, I can take it, until you just can't take it anymore. Right before I got on this webinar tonight, I was texting with the guy who did my tile. I just redid my bathroom. And there's one thing he needs to come back and fix, right? There's always one thing left for the contractor to come back. And I've been texting him, and he's pretty bad at it historically. And so today I hadn't heard from him in a couple of weeks. And so today I just sent like that little waving hand emoji. I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Thank goodness I did. He texts me back. He goes, "I had a minor heart attack. I guess you were right. I have been working too hard." Right? Like, you do not want your call to action to be a heart attack. Okay. So that's why, I jump on this soapbox about resilience. So you're resilient, great. But then what, right? You've got to find a way to take care of yourself. So when we think about resilience, one of the things that we don't really think about enough is our energy. We just think about sucking it up and keep on going. So what I want to do is talk about what it's like to have low energy and what it feels like for you when your energy is low and your energy is bad. Now, we've all made all kinds of mistakes because our energy is low and our cognitions are low and our capacities are compromised when we're exhausted. But what I'd like for you to do, and if you don't feel comfortable putting it in the chat, don't. But what I'd love for you to do is, paper and pen this. These 5 questions are there 5? Yeah, these 5 questions, these are important. This is important stuff to get connected to. And I'm wondering what low energy feels like and looks like. Is anyone connected to that? Does anyone have a good idea? Okay, when I have low energy, transitions are difficult. I bonked on my first 60+ mile bike ride. I could walk, but not pedal. I guess bonked must be a cycling term. Is that like when I was swimming, it was the piano fell on your back and you just couldn't swim anymore, just for toast? Is that what bonked means? Exercise is a chore. Carbs are my friend. Oh man. So you want to know why carbs are your friend? There's like a scientific explanation for this. Okay. This is super crazy, but carbs are your friend because when your energy is low, your brain goes into survival, and carbs get stored as fat, which is survival. Crazy, huh? Okay, it's hard to go to work. It's hard to leave work. It's hard to leave the barn. I just spend too much time anywhere. That's perfect. When I have low energy, everything feels heavy and too hard. I drink lots of coffee. My dyslexia shows itself. Could have typed that in a funny way and that would have been funny. My OCD goes crazy. My Staten Island accent surfaces. OCD. I feel like I'm in a spiral that I can't get out of. I try to get more energy, go to bed at night, and then I can't sleep, which makes it all worse. Okay, don't let me forget to talk about sleep. Feels like I can't stop long enough to do a single thing. And so I try to multitask all day long and end up never catching up, right? You can't stop long enough to do a single thing, and then you don't do anything right, and it takes you twice as long, right? Pessimistic. I noticed I don't want to read good things, just trash, right? That's when the phone feels so good, right? That dopamine scroll. Cranky, anxiety attacks. Short with people I do not want to be short with. Yes, for sure. +1 for cranky, +2. Procrastinate, cannot mourn fully the passing of my father. Yeah, it's so hard. Grief takes quite a lot of energy, for sure. Avoid connecting. Only energy for social media, right? Catherine, that's because of the dopamine, right? It's the quick hit. Very, very easy. Okay, good. And jumped ahead. What do you avoid? I avoid talking. Therapeutic paddock cleaning helps because no one talks to me. For sure, that's good. Put that in your how I recover my energy bucket. I found coloring or doing a puzzle helps. So Heather, when you're coloring or doing a puzzle, you're shifting your mental neural networks somewhere that feels good and is not stressed, and those neural networks are not exhausted. That's why it feels good. That's an excellent way to shift your energy. My ADD kicks in. I second guess myself. Yeah, right. Because your decision making declines when you don't have good energy because you're cognitively compromised. I have felt like coloring seems more healthy than Facebook for sure. Become measurably dumber. You do. We become really dumb, right? Okay, so when our energy is low and our fight or flight system kicks in, that's when you go off course in a dressage test with a reader. Right? That's my favorite thing. I remember the first time I saw that, I thought, oh man, there's got to be a good reason for this. Listening to Bridgerton book series on book number 8. Cool. What helps? Definitely spending time with my horses. Can't multitask there, and it's better than meditating. I'll challenge you on the meditating part, but yes, horses are definitely a way to put energy back in the tank. I end up getting into more arguments with my mare. Yes, for sure, because you're not thinking well, and probably what you're doing is making an assumption about her behavior, which may or not be true. And then you fight, right? You're in survival already. So it's fight or flight. Okay. How about some of the things that you avoid doing? What are some things that you avoid doing because you just don't have the energy for? For me, number 1, laundry. Piles. I avoid going anywhere. Yeah. I avoid answering emails. So if you email me and I don't email you back, it's because I'm exhausted. Cleaning the house, piles of paper, cooking. Yes, cooking is a really big one. Talking to my mom, she asks real questions. I avoid discussions of potential controversial stuff. That's just smart. Cooking, housework, writing notes, preparing healthy meals, groom. You avoid grooming, or you don't ride. Total laundry. Yep. Notes for work. Any task where I expect less than a positive outcome, right? Because you just don't have the energy to fail. I get it. I withdraw. Can't talk to anyone on the phone or can't speak to anyone in person. This is so awesome. Thank you for sharing yourselves this way. Going through papers or anything I need to face, right? I know exactly what you mean. Like having the energy to face something that, oh man, when you're exhausted, forget about it. Phone calls. Yes. Yes. So this is what happens to us. Ugh, bills. I think you could probably plus, I don't know how many people are on the call. You could plus 70 or whatever it is. Yeah. So now that we're getting a sense for what happens to us when our energy is low, what happens to you when your energy is high? What is life like for you when your energy is high? Focus on the fuel tank right there. What does it feel like? I can multitask. I sleep at night. I can do anything. I can change anything in 20 minutes. That's awesome. It feels like the day is visibly brighter, easier to express gratitude. Yes, for sure. More outgoing and positive, feel happy and feel really happy just to be alive. The to-do list gets shorter. Yes, I get tasks accomplished and that gives me great satisfaction. Yep, for sure. When energy is too high, I micromanage. Yep, for sure. There's balance. More likely to check in with the people around me. I can give my friends attention. Yeah, right. We think we have to go like this when our energy is low. Super productive. Right. Write my lectures and catch up with what I've put off. I feel like I get things done well and efficiently. Multitasking is a breeze. More empathic. to my patients. Yes, for sure. Happy, challenge myself, want to ride better, eat so much less junk. We eat so much better when we're not exhausted. It's so ironic and infuriating. It's just not fair. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we can see both sides. Okay, so how do we address that issue of excess energy? We don't want to pop a fuse. That's a good one. So the interesting thing is that what we're missing here is our balance, right? So we're either exhausted and can't get anything done, or we're fully energized and we feel like we have to get everything done. And so we're floating from one extreme to the other, when really, I want you to have a super boring life with regards to your energy and have things hover, right? We're looking for that baseline of energy where we hover, right? We're spending energy, we're recovering energy. We're spending energy, we're recovering energy, right? This, my little hands waving like this should be stuck in your head for forever, right? Because we don't want to be, that's not optimal, right? And Melanie called it out perfectly. We don't want to pop a fuse. But our problem is that we feel energized so rarely, or we feel that being energized is a fluke. I better take advantage of it while I've got some energy. I better get everything done. We end up being a little, like opposite ends of the spectrum. Boom, boom. We don't really want to be there. We want to spend energy and then recover energy, spend energy and then recover energy. And we just really don't put any focus into the recovery. We do what I call bookend recovering, right? We eat something in the morning, maybe, or at least we'll drink coffee. We spend all of our energy all day. We come home and we collapse and maybe eat something there. I hear a lot of people talk about recovering their energy. Well, when I get home tonight, when I get home tonight. And the way that I want you to begin to think about your recovery is like you think about your recovery with your horse, because I'll tell you, we are way better to our horses with regards to managing their energy than we are to ourselves. This isn't the old West. We don't jump on our horse and ride them all day. Okay, so are we all on the manic depressive spectrum? So I avoided using that terminology because manic depressive, which is now renamed as bipolar, actually, it's been renamed as bipolar for over a decade, I think. But manic depressive is when you sort of vacillate between a manic episode, which is where you have very high energy, or a depressive episode where you can't get out of bed. And so while that's a really significant psychological disorder that people struggle tremendously with, we have sort of a mirror effect with energy when we're spending all our energy. And so we're either completely exhausted or completely energized. So the exhaustion, we'd have less energy as in the depressive state, but it's not a depressive state. It's just a physical or energetically exhaustive state. You could be exhausted in a manic episode. So it's a little bit different than that. So we're really talking about energy, not about psychology. Does that make sense? BT 22. But yeah, as I was talking about it, I'm like, yeah, someone's going to think I'm talking about bipolar, but I'm not. So what we want to look for is we're looking for this balance, right? So spending is easy. Spending energy, spending money is very, very easy. How do we recover it? How do we put some gas back in the tank? What do you do to recover energy? And we've had a couple, when we talked about these things, like what makes you feel good, let's talk about that. What helps you feel like you're getting some energy back? What are things you do naturally that make you feel good? This is always where there's crickets. Okay, sleep, a workout, exercise, cleaning, tack, being outside, stretch, accomplish a goal. Yes, accomplish a goal. Yes, yes, yes. Being outside in the fresh air. Yes, accomplishing any task I've put off. Yes, walking my horse. Yes, absolutely. Time with my horse. Yes, paying bills. Yes, check, check, check. Grooming, helping others. Laughing for sure. Clipping. Ooh, good for you. Getting that nice transition. Yes. Friends. Yes. Keep going. Keep going. This is fantastic. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Getting physically active. Think of anybody but me taking extra time to chat with my roommates. Good books, horse time yoga, not checking work emails. Yes, yes, yes. Girlfriend weekend, meditation. I'm a huge meditation fan. Yes, 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 absolutely. So what you want to begin to think about with your energy is the intentionality around recovering your energy, right? So it's very, very easy to spend our energy. It's super easy to spend our energy. But what we don't do is think about getting our energy back or ushering a turtle across the road. Yeah, that makes you feel pretty good. Doing something nice and unexpected, give into the idea that I'm not going to get done what I'm struggling to get done. Power walk, drink some water, calm out for 10 minutes. Yeah. Yes. So as you can see, when I ask this question, what do you do to put energy back in the tank? There's always like this initial silence because we don't connect to these things as being energetically refilling. We think about these as like a girlfriend weekend, like a special occasion. We don't think about, now you can't go on a girlfriend weekend every day or every weekend. I mean, I guess you could, but you'd have to have a lot of girlfriends. But we don't think about stuff like meditation. We think about it as something that we need to do. We don't think about always what we're getting from it. We don't, like, if we scroll up here, horse time, yoga time, good books, these all feel like, like treats. And I don't want you to think of them as treats, like taking extra time to chat with your roommates in the morning over coffee. That should be something that you think about doing for you every day. Like, not like that's special, but like that's something that you do. Like, you brush your teeth, you chat with your roommates over coffee, right? You work out because it helps you feel good mentally and physically. You connect with your friends, not because all of a sudden you have time to do it, but because every day when you talk to your friends, you get something from that. And this is where we often fail. Okay, we don't set this aside for us, like we make these special occasions instead of daily occasions, really is what we're doing. So let's talk about sleep for a second. Okay, because sleep is really critical. Sleep is the ultimate recovery. And one of the things that we don't think about with our sleep is that you actually have to have enough energy to sleep. So the quality of your energy recovery during the day directly impacts the quality of your sleep. If you are so plumb tired by the time you fall into bed, you're unlikely to sleep well. You're too tired. If you're a mother, or if you've ever babysat a baby, an infant that gets overtired, it is horrific, horrific. One of the worst babysitting experiences I ever had was an overtired baby. Okay, so most of us have experienced that in some way, shape, or form. What you want to think about is across your day, making sure that you're here, not here, right? You're here. The more you even out your energy throughout the day, the better you will start to sleep. The more you put gas back in the tank, the less you need your sleep as a dramatic rehabilitative event. Your sleep becomes more natural and more restful and easier. So there's some amazing TED Talks. There's fantastic stuff on sleep out there. If you do not sleep well, please, there's like a whole sleep hygiene thing. It's always the same, right? Turn your lights down in the evening, like as you prepare for sleep. And the reason why is because when your eyes see light, it signals the release of serotonin, which is an elevated wake-up emotion neurotransmitter. When you're in darkness, the natural circadian rhythm, like when the sun sets, that triggers the release of melatonin, which is the thing that makes you tired and allows you to sleep. Melatonin also has amazing, incredible, crazy wide spectrum of healing properties. So part of why we have trouble getting better when we don't sleep well, and why illness can really come from bad sleep, is because of that missing melatonin. And popping those pills, the melatonin pills, is not enough. You really need to create it in your brain. Why do you think there's such a wide range of how much sleep we need? Well, I think because the research is just not, the brain research is still developing. We're still, every time we learn something new about the science of the brain, like I think it was, what was it, like 5 or 6 years ago, they discovered that we do have a lymphatic system in the brain. And for however many years, a million, they thought we didn't. They also thought that we didn't develop new neural pathways once we crossed like 50 or 30, right? The brain was fully developed at 30, and that was it. So every time we learn something new, we're advancing this. The guideline is sort of like 7 to 9. 9 is a lot of sleep. What they did discover, Melanie, with the sleep studies and the lymphatic system in the brain, is that it doesn't really start to remove the free radicals in your brain until after the 7th hour. So I would say get 7 hours. If you can get 7 hours, your brain has started to clean itself up a little bit. And that's really important. Okay, so with your energy, are you beginning to get an understanding of how to put a little bit of energy back in the tank? Yeah, menopause. Yeah, Sue. Get yourself a good endocrinologist who can help you with some of that. Really, menopause has been very challenging, I think, for all of us with regards to sleep. So yes, I feel you. I totally feel you. So energy is critical. When I was working for Dr. Lair, he was a performance psychologist. And one of the things that he said was that energy is fuel for performance. So the better your energy is, the better you will perform. And I want you to be thinking about taking notes on what helps you in terms of your energy and where do you need to be energetically to perform really well. Okay, because you need a plan. You need to include energy as a plan, right? So we think about taking grain, hay, shavings, our tack, all of that to the horse show and make sure that we're dressed and the horse is dressed and all of that. But do you think about what kind of energy do you want to have? Not only during warm up, but in those critical 45 seconds when you're circling the ring. Like I call that the dead zone. I mean, that can kill anyone if you're not prepared. That takes a tremendous amount of energy to transition from warm up to circling the arena to then going down center line, right? And so you need to have energy for all of that. A lot of people think, I just got to get to, X, halt, salute. No. There is so much energy that you need to get yourself into the arena, and you want to be conserving all the way so that by the time you get down center line, you've got as much energy in the tank as you possibly can have. I need my roommates to come serve me coffee at the show. So I feel coffee is a big thing for you, Dawn. I'm totally with you on that. Right. So whatever it is, whatever you need to be doing to conserve your energy and to like stockpile some energy, make sure that you're eliminating things as you're going to the horse show that cost you energy, that are not going to give you anything back in return as you're preparing to perform and compete. Right. We do all of this stuff to ride our horses and to be great. And we spend all this time and money and energy. And there's a lot of things that we don't think about naturally. Okay. And our culture in horses is very funny because we do things the way that our trainer did things. And so it's very much handed down to us. It's almost like a culture in a family where whatever your trainer did, that's what you were taught to do. And either it works for you or it doesn't. And, at some point you may go, gosh, you know what? I really wish I was doing this a little bit better, or that this was working a little bit better for me. But until we're notified that this is different, or that there's a different way to do it, sometimes it doesn't even occur to us. And I hear this all the time. I'll tell someone something and they're like, wow, that's brilliant. And I'm like, no, it's just hadn't come across your radar yet. I feel like I lose energy to my own internal chatter. Yeah, welcome to internal chatter for sure. Literally planning every moment of a show, writing it down to the minute saves me energy, even though my friends think I'm crazy. I don't think you're crazy at all. I think that's a fantastic way to manage your energy. At the last show I went to, I sat alone in my truck and listened to classical music before I went to the warm-up. I love that, right? Quiet time, no energy out, all energy in. That's fantastic. That's really great. Yeah. So this could help you up your game. I mean, and even if it only helps you 5 or 10%, could you imagine your dressage score improving by 5%? I mean, come on, who wouldn't take that, right? By spending a little bit of time and energy thinking about and managing your energy. But that's really what you need is you need a plan and you need a strategy, and then you need to practice it before the horse show. Before the horse show, ladies, you got to practice it. And I think there's 1 or 2 gentlemen on here, depending on your pronouns. You need to practice it, okay? So I love this picture. It looks like he's holding the tail of a foal. He's still actually holding the lead rope, but if you feel like this, you need to get to work on this. I know we've been covering the chat and answering questions as we go. Does anybody have anything that hasn't been answered? I mean, even if it doesn't have to do with energy.
There's usually 1 or 2 last minute questions.
Okay.
I wanted to ask, just for, we have some college students joining us from one of the local equestrian programs this evening. If there's an interest in more of this topic as a career pathway and research, if you wanted to kind of dive into more research on the subject, who are some up and coming researchers you might suggest other than yourself?
Oh, well, I'm not a researcher. And I would say that if this equestrian group wants to put together some questions and just shoot me an email, and maybe what I'll do is jump on a Zoom with them, just make it easier. Okay. How do you control the internal chatter? Can we do like an entire webinar on that?
Inner critic, I think they call it.
Yes, that is a whole world, but it can be done. Why is it harder to do something positive than falling into the bad habits? Okay, so the reason why the negative is easier than the positive is because the negative, we're really wired for negative because of survival. And we think 9 negative thoughts to every 3 positive thoughts. So it's really skewed. Allison Hong, thank you very much. You highly recommend my equestrian masterclass. So I have a couple of things online. At noellefloyd.com, I have 2 masterclasses, one on fear and one on performance. And they've been really popular, and some of the feedback, lots of feedback that I've gotten, that they've been really, really helpful. But I've also just recently launched this empty tank syndrome. And so this is on my emptytanksyndrome.com. There you can click on courses, and there's actually a really robust course. It's 4.5 hours of content on this energy piece. Talks a lot about energy and performance. So it's not just about energy, but what I did was I created a special discount for NEDA members. And you just, when you go in there and you go to the cart, if you're interested, you just apply NEDA 10, and that's a 10% discount. It's good until Saturday at midnight. And there's my email address. So if you email me, especially in the next couple of days, if I get a whole bunch of them, it may take me a couple of days to get all the way around to them. But if I don't answer, just resend it, okay? Because sometimes stuff gets lost. Okay. I'm new to horse showing, so I feel like I have a lot of energy at shows, but it's nervous energy. Sure, definitely have internal chatter, self-doubt, etc. So what I probably really need is to bring my sympathetic levels down in order to perform well. Yes, Renata, absolutely. Also, the more you show, the better you'll get at it. Right now, a lot of your energy is going to synthesizing all of the new experiences that you haven't seen or found a place to file yet. So that is going to take a lot of your energy. But yes, bringing down your SNS. I'm learning that not only do I need to figure out what works for me in a competitive situation where I feel like I'm a little introvert, but want to sit in a corner with a coloring book. Yes, everybody has their own way of dealing with that. Absolutely. So Catherine, I don't know if I have time to jump in the chat. Yes, please send me an email, Catherine Christensen. And that's my email address, drjenny@drjenny.com. I don't want to go over, we have 2 minutes left. So I just want to make sure that, Dawn, you don't have anything to say to wrap up. Again, I want to thank everyone and thank you for having me back. You know, I was NEDA Region 8 for a long, long time before I moved to Florida. So I miss you guys.
There's always room in the snow for you.
Yeah,
I hope you can see lots and lots of thanks in the chat.
I can. And, you know, thank you for being so engaged in this. I love when people join in and contribute to the conversation and help me. So thank you.
They're the best. So thank you very much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it again. And I hope everyone will head over to those websites. I'll include them in the feedback survey that I'll send around in a little bit. So you'll have a link to click. Don't panic if you're trying to find a pen to write down the links. I've got them.
I can send you a direct link also.
Perfect.
So I'll email you that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'm sure we will see you again soon sometime. And in the meantime, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And all the wonderful feedback from everyone in the chat. You guys, as usual, make the whole session even better with all of your interactivity on the chat. So thank you to everyone. Have a good night.